is Israel and Iran. They've continued to trade strikes as the conflict between the two continues. We have been checking in with analysts and experts almost nonstop since we saw Israel and Iran. First, it was Israel striking Iran, targeting nuclear facilities, ballistic missile facilities, high-profile military targets, as well as high-profile scientists as well. You're looking at a live vantage point of Tel Aviv right now. The time is 4:39 in the morning, Israel Standard Time. We do have Mark Dubowitz standing by. He's the CEO of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Mark is here with me. And Mark, as always, we appreciate your time. There is so much going on around the world. We were just watching the protests. We had to get an update in on Israel and Iran. For folks that have been watching the military parade and now the protests, they've been watching that for the past 3 or 4 hours. Maybe they haven't heard any updates on the Middle East. What have people missed in the overnight hours, let's call it, Israel Standard Time? What's been happening?
So, Austin, it's another heavy day of fighting between Israel and the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Israelis have gone in and have taken out additional sites, major sites, nuclear-related sites, going after key commanders in the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, and are really doing everything they can to permanently disable the regime's ability to build nuclear weapons. And on the other end, while the Israelis have been very precise in going after regime officials and those in the security establishment, the Iranians have been lobbing hundreds of missiles at Israelis and going after civilians, and have killed 11 Israeli civilians, wounded over 300. So you really see that disparity between Israeli targeted strikes on Iranian security officials and Iranian strikes and the killing of Israeli civilians.
The video that's on our screen right now is video of damage inside Israel. We know that the Iron Dome protects from lots of airborne threats, but it's not perfect. We have seen damage on the ground. We don't know exactly where this is. This video was fed into our system moments ago. We don't have an exact location. But Mark, one thing that I was asking with the experts a lot yesterday was, are Israel and Iran at war? Are they officially at war? Does it matter at this point? They are fighting.
Well, they're at war. I mean, I don't know if they're officially at war, if there's any sort of an official declaration of war, but they certainly are at war. But I mean, it's very important to understand, Austin, that Iran has been at war with Israel for decades. Israel has shown a remarkable constraint, despite the fact that they have been terrorized by Iran-backed terror organizations for years. As you know, the Iranians fired over 400 missiles at Israel last year in April and October. And I think the Israelis have shown this remarkable restraint, but that all ended after the Iranian-backed Hamas invaded Israel, killed 1,200 Israelis, murdered, tortured, raped, and took hostages, Israeli and Americans hostages, 450 of them. And the Israelis said, that's it. We've shown too much restraint, and now it's time to fight back. And they are fighting back, and hopefully with some success in really demolishing Iran's capabilities, their nuclear weapons capabilities, their missile capabilities, and their terror proxies.
Is this what this has all been building up to for years, decades?
Yeah, for decades. And the Israelis have named this Operation Rising Lion, which is an interesting choice. I mean, I think there's two real interpretations of that. The first is, at some point, I mean, the most dangerous animal in the animal kingdom is the lioness, protecting her cubs. And I think in some respects, this is Israel rising up to really protect its citizens from decades of attacks by the Islamic Republic of Iran. The second interpretation, which I think is equally interesting, is that rising lion, the lion and the sun, are the symbols of the flag of the pre-Islamic Republic Iran, when Iran was not being dominated by the mullahs, the clerics, and the Revolutionary Guards after the Islamist Revolution of 1979. So in some respects, this is a nod to the hope that with these strikes against this security establishment, this apparatus of internal repression, that the Iranian people will be able to come back to the streets as they've been on the streets since 2009 and really take back their flag and take back their country.
Are there any signs that this is going to end anytime soon, the back and forth between Iran and Israel, or does it seem like we're still very much in the middle of this?
Well, I think the back and forth, will probably not end, because as long as the Islamic Republic of Iran remains in power and dedicated to the destruction of Israel and to the building of nuclear weapons to advance that goal, then clearly the Israelis are not going to be able to allow this to continue. It could end in the short term, if the Supreme Leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, makes the decision to return back to the negotiating table, and to negotiate a deal with President Trump that fully dismantles his nuclear weapons program. There were, 5 rounds of negotiations, but the Iranians were refusing every offer by President Trump to come to some kind of an agreement. Now, this may be their only option, really, is to return to the negotiating table. If not, they're going to continue to get pounded by the Israeli Air Force, continue to be infiltrated by Mossad, and suffer severe damage. They also run the risk that the President of the United States may decide to join the Israelis and use U.S. military force to permanently, once and for all, destroy Iran's nuclear weapons program.
Is the Supreme Leader himself a target?
Israelis have made it very clear he is a target. And I think they were holding that in abeyance for now. And I'm warning the Supreme Leader that if he continues firing hundreds and hundreds of ballistic missiles targeting Israeli civilians, then they will go up that escalation ladder. They'll not only hit nuclear sites and military and security, but they'll go after economic targets and ultimately the Supreme Leader, who the Israelis could target and kill at will.
Is there any sort of catalyst that gets the U.S. more involved in this?
Well, I think there are a couple. I mean, the first is that there's despite the really incredible operation that Israel has run that has surprised many analysts, there is a nuclear facility called Fordo, which is buried under a mountain, hundreds of feet deep, and contains Iran's enrichment facilities, where they've been spinning centrifuges and enriching uranium. It's not clear that the Israelis are going to be able to take that site out on their own. They lack the 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrators that the U.S. Air Force has. They lack the B-2 strategic bombers that you need in order to carry and drop that ordnance. And so that's where the United States could play a role after the Israelis have cleared and destroyed all the air defenses, created a free pathway to the Fordo facility, taken out many of these other key nodes of the Iranian nuclear, military, and security infrastructure. That could be the opportunity for President Trump to come in and really end the program. And for him, it would be a great success. And his legacy would be the president that finally ended Iran's nuclear weapons pursuits.
So a regime shift has been said to be one of the main, and let's talk about what a regime shift means in Iran. There's a lot of people that don't follow this conflict day to day like you and I do, but let's talk about the complex dynamics of the regime in Iran, and tell me a little bit about the general public of Iran too.
Yeah, I mean, 80% of Iranians despise this regime. They've been on the streets since 2009, millions of them yelling death to the dictator, asking American presidents, are you with us or with the dictator? Unfortunately, Presidents Biden and Obama in particular engaged with the dictator, wrote letters to the dictator in order to negotiate. Now, President Trump has done the same thing early in his term, but it's also very clear that President Trump was prepared to provide Israel with the support that it needed, the defensive support and helping protect Israel against missile attacks, but also very close coordination between U.S. Central Command and the Israeli Defense Forces. And I think President Trump appreciated that there was going to be no deal with Iran that would peacefully end this unless there was a credible threat of military force. But I think also all administrations in the U.S. have missed this opportunity to really provide maximum support to the Iranian people. Now, I mentioned they were on the streets in 2009, millions of them. They were also back on the streets every year since 2017. Again, yelling death to the dictator. In 2022, brave Iranian women, hundreds of thousands of them, back on the streets, ripping off their hijab, the forced and coercive sort of gender apartheid, as they would call it, that they have to wear these hijabs. And they ripped off the hijabs, took to the streets. The regime mowed them down, killed them, tortured, raped, used chemical weapons against Iranian schoolgirls to break the back of the women life freedom movement. And yet still, Iran is on the streets. There's been a big trucker strike in recent weeks. So there's really, again, 80% of this population that wants to see the end of the Islamic Republic. We don't need to send hundreds of thousands of US troops or Israeli troops into Iran. What we need to do is support the Iranian people, provide them the material support they need, technology, money, perhaps weapons, so that they can actually take back their country and usher in a free and certainly far less threatening Iran.
What's the ultimate long-term goal here? A denuclearized Iran, of course, is the chief goal right now, but are they trying to impose a democracy there eventually?
I don't think with a form of government is that important, in my view, whether it's a democracy or a constitutional monarchy. I think the most important thing is it's an Iran free of these radical Islamist clerics, these theocrats that are not only brutally repressive to their own people, but have been threatening America and the region. Not to mention have American blood on their hands. I mean, they've killed and maimed thousands of Americans, and I think as an American, I owe a debt of gratitude to the Israelis because they have brought justice to the terrorists backed by Iran who have killed American men and women for years and maimed them and taken them hostage. So I think the end goal at the end of the day is an Iran that whatever its form of government is not going to threaten the United States and Israel and our Gulf allies, and is going to give its people the opportunity for freedom and prosperity. And this is something that I think the majority of Iranians have demonstrated that they've been yearning for and struggling for since the Islamist Revolution of '79 took all of that away from them.
Mark Dubowitz is the CEO of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Always a pleasure, Mark. Thanks. Have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate it.
So we continue to monitor not only these live images. We've been looking at vantage points of Tel Aviv, by the way, because we look to the skies to see if there's any military activity, perhaps anything being intercepted in the skies. Time right now is 4:52 in the morning, Israel Standard Time.